It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all in the monthly departmental webinar of Department of CSC at ABS Engineering College, Ghaziabad. This is held on different topics of interest and beliefs for the benefit of students and as well as for the faculty members. The students and all audiences wait for it curiously, where we invite reputed personality and speakers of different domains. On this occasion, I would like to thank to my honorable management, Director Sir and HOD CSE Professor Dr. Divya Mishra Ma'am for their valuable consent, guidance and the support for such programs. It is vision and initiative of our HOD CSE Dr. Divya Ma'am that ABES should not only impart technical education but also inculcate values, ethics, and professional excellence in our students. With this vision, the series of webinars is being hosted every month. We are fortunate enough to have Dr. Gaurav Gupta sir with us today. Profile वाली We are very fortunate enough that we have Dr. Gaurav Gupta sir as a speaker for today's session. Sir has great achievements and successful past with several milestones. Still, I would like to read a brief profile for introducing the speaker for today's session for kind info for one and all present here. We are very much sure that all are going to be benefited by this session and will learn certain key tips. A brief query session is also planned after the session where audience can ask their curiosities and have knowledge sharing. Gaurav Gupta sir is the first Indian to earn a doctorate in the field of digital forensics. He was bestowed with the Young Scientist Award of the Indian Science Congress in 2010 from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He has a rich experience of 20 years. He has worked at KPMG and served as a faculty member at the Indraprasth Institute of Information Technology, Delhi. He is currently an additional director with the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Once again, I welcome you all in today's session. Now, I would like to request Dr. Gaurav Gupta sir to kindly proceed with his session. Sir, I'm sharing the PPT.
So, thank you very much. There are some small technical glitches, hence I'm not able to play PPT from my side. I will be talking about, prevailing computer frauds and cyber crimes. Meanwhile, I think somebody is going to share the screen and share my PPT, which I have already shared. So I will talk about today, the title of my talk is Cyber Unsafe, which means in this world where we all are using digital technology, we are using smartphone, we are using internet, we are at times not safe, and we can become safe if we practice proper digital hygiene. We will be safe if we know what all can go wrong with us, and we will also discuss what all can we do to make sure that computer frauds and cyber crimes can be avoided. So that is what is the core agenda of my talk today. How long will it take to share PPT? Aditi? Yeah. So here's the PPT. You can run it in the full screen mode.
Yes, sir, we are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is visible. So, today I will discuss about, cyber unsafe and it is, very interesting to note that, computer frauds and cyber crimes are increasing. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So, we all do lot of activities in our day-to-day life, right? So you can see on your screen that, there are certain websites which are listed. Do you think any one of them is good to go, and will you visit there? And what is your view about what are the risks associated with each of the websites? So will you go and visit all 5? And do you think all 5 are not good, or one of them is good, or one of them is not good? You can write in your chat box, and maybe Aditi can read what people are responding. Do you think all of these websites are safe?
You all can write your views in the comment box, chat box.
Yeah. Yes, please. Let's keep it interactive so that let me know what you are thinking, what you already know. So according to me, not all of them are safe. Some of them are safe, some of them are not safe. Which one is safe to visit and why? Is there a reason? Right. So if you use these websites, is there any response, Aditi?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, so don't go into Google and try to use them and by copying pasting. I'll tell you the answer right over here. The first website is ozon.ru. This is basically a shopping website of Russia. It's like Flipkart or Amazon of India, right? It's a genuine website. You can go and do shopping. Probably they will not deliver in India. However, what about the other one? Next one is yahoo.com. Is it okay? It's not okay. It's not yahoo.com actually. It is yah00.com. Right. So it is 00 and 00, because 0 and O differentiation by our eyes is not possible, right? Our eyes can't differentiate whether it's O or 0, and that is what criminals exploit. The third one is not sbi.co.in. It is sb1.co.in. What about the fourth one? Anyone? What website is the fourth one? It's not ongc.co.in. It is ognc.co.in. And I'll tell you why this is fraudulent later on. Again, the last one is not google.com. It is g00gle.com, which is again not correct, right? So what happens is human mind and human eyes, they work in a peculiar fashion. We have limitations of our senses. Our ear can hear only certain wavelengths. Our eye can only differentiate between broad characters. So if I give you 1 or I, it is difficult to differentiate. If I give you 0 and O, you will find it difficult to fix which one is 0, which one is O, and so on, right? So there are human senses which have certain drawbacks, certain limitations, and which are being exploited by criminals. This is one of the example I'll show you. While during my course of the talk, I will discuss various other issues which are happening and how criminals are doing fraud. Can you move on to next, Aditi, please? Next slide.
Just a second, sir.
So criminals basically know that human mind will not be able to differentiate certain things, and keeping those things in mind, they keep on developing new techniques to do frauds, to develop new techniques, and new ways of committing frauds. And that brings me to a point where I will ask a question, which is, what do you think? What makes cyber crimes possible for the criminals? What makes cybercrime possible for the criminals? Is it computers? It is technology, or something else? Most people will think, okay, digitalization is making, enabling more frauds. Computerization and dependency on mobile phones and internet is, causing more frauds. But actually, it is not technology, it is not digital world which is causing frauds. It is us cyber users, who all are using technology. If they are not careful enough, then there will be frauds. If we are not vigilant, if we are not taking all the precaution which we have to take in the digital world, that is causing a lot of frauds to happen. Right, so that is the reason that crimes happen. It is us cybercrime users, cyberspace users, which makes crime possible. Right, please move on to the next. Along with this, one more reason of frauds to happen is convergence of technologies to provide convenience. So, for example, technology is changing very fast. So, what is the first phone you remember? We used to have landline phones, right? But then landline phones came with wires, and we cannot take landline phones with us everywhere. So that is where we felt that we need to have something more portable, which does not have wire, which we can carry around, right? So that's where the mobile phone was invented. So any new technology which is coming today or being developed today, the reason for that development is convenience. Because you want more convenience, that's where the feature phones came around 2000, early 90s, late 90s, where we had phones which had a keypad to dial number, and which you can carry. It has an antenna to communicate through mobile towers, right? So now think about, let's say you are going for a holiday in year 2001, 20 years back, 20 years earlier than today, right? So when, let's say, people were going for holidays, you know what all they were taking with them in terms of digital devices? Today you carry a mobile phone, right? But once upon a time, they used to carry various devices, not only one device. They used to carry with them a digital diary, a digital camera, a handy cam to record videos, some kind of music device like Walkman. They used to carry a watch or an alarm clock, and so on. So they were carrying many separate devices. Each was having a separate purpose, was either partially digital or fully digital in nature at that point of time. So you were carrying a lot of things with you when you were going anywhere. Today, all of that has converged to one single device, which is your mobile phone. Your mobile phone is your handycam. Your mobile phone is your digital camera. Your mobile phone is your diary. It's your alarm. It's your watch. It's your music device. So everything is combined together. Probably it is your laptop today, right? What you could do in laptops once upon a time, you can do all those things in your mobile phones today. So this convergence of technology is also one of the reasons that now criminals want to get into your mobile phone, because once they get into your mobile phone, once they hack your mobile phone, once they get access to your mobile phone, they can actually extract all the data which you have. They can extract your photographs, videos, your passwords, your mails, business plans, and everything, because you are having centralized source of data today, right? And this change of technology will keep on happening, right? So change is happening. So from landline phones to we reach to feature phones, right? And then from feature phones we are now moving on to around 2007, once Apple launched smartphone iPhone. Since then we are seeing all the phones are converting slowly and slowly, getting more features, and we are migrating towards using smartphones. So all of you today who are accessing my talk today are, I'm assuming, are using smartphones. Only if small percentage of people who are using feature phones, they will also move on to smartphones in next few years, right? Because the cost of data and availability of smartphones and their cost will make it possible that each and every one of us will be using smartphone. Rather, I will say, after few years, it will be very difficult to find a feature phone, because you can't buy it because it is not available. It's like floppy drives. Do you have access to floppy drives today? If you want to buy a floppy, can you buy? You can't buy. It is not available, right? So speed of change of technology is very, very fast, and at times so fast that once upon a time when technology used to change, you used to use the old technology fully, and then you used to move to new technology slowly. But today that is not the case. Let me just again ask you one more question. Is there anybody who is using a laptop which has a CD and DVD drive in it? Please answer in chat box. Aditi, let me know if somebody is saying yes. I'm repeating the question. Is there anybody who is having a laptop which is having a CD or a DVD drive in it, where you can put a CD and DVD and work on laptop? Is there anyone?
I request you students to please be interactive with sir. You can put up your views in the chat box.
No, nobody has a laptop with a CD and DVD drive. So according to me, some people are still using laptops because those laptops were very common 2-3 years back. So if you bought a laptop 3 years back, chances are you might have a laptop with CD and DVD drive, but you are not using it. Reason is, over last 2-3 years, the Wi-Fi as well as the broadband and the 4G connectivity has increased so much that you do not need CDs anymore. What you were having in CDs, which was not easy to download using a dial-up or the 2G connections of old era, now you can do all those things. You can download all the data using Wi-Fi or 4G, which is very, very cheap. And hence you don't require CDs and DVDs anymore, right? I'm sure you must have used CDs and DVDs once upon a time in your lifetime, but you're not anymore using them. Reason is everything is available on internet, and internet connectivity is very, very good. So this change of speed of technology is going to increase further, and that will also ensure a lot of frauds happen. And again, I will discuss going forward why is that so. Can you move on to next slide, Aditi, please? Yeah. So okay. So when I'm talking about technology being available, 4G and Wi-Fi, which is very fast Wi-Fi, and broadband, which is available, and users who are not aware about how criminals do fraud, these things are there. But along with this, one more thing exists which is being used by criminals, and that is the emotions. Criminals deceive us, deceive our mind by manipulating the emotions. How do they manipulate the emotions? And I will discuss those things also. They exploit our emotions, which leads to computer frauds and cybercrime. Can you press a button, Aditi, please? So, we have basic emotions of trust, greed, panic, fear of missing out, threat, disruption. These are some of the things which I have noted down here. So what happens here is, trust. People are calling you from the bank, right? So for example, let's say if I am going to an ATM every day at, let's say, 8 o'clock and withdrawing 500 rupees. Now what I do is I withdraw 500 rupees from the ATM. There is a slip which comes out from the ATM, and I check that slip, and then I throw away that slip there itself. So let's say if I do this for next consecutive 4 days, what may happen is somebody who is coming after me when I'm done with my banking transaction in that ATM, he picks up the slip and he figures out last 4 digits of my account number or the credit card or a debit card. And now once he knows the last 4 digits, he knows that every day 7 to 8 p.m. I come there, I withdraw money and throw away the slip. So first of all, he has now noted down my pattern. He has my account number. He knows what is the amount I have withdrawn and what is the balance in my account. Now what will happen is he will figure out my car in which I'm coming to the bank and going out of the bank or the ATM. And at times on my car windscreen, I have my phone number written, because when I park my car in apartments, people may need my phone number to move my car and they have to call me. So my phone number is written onto the sticker which is pasted on my car. Now, when I am busy inside the ATM machine, this particular guy who is a criminal, he notes down my mobile number. Now, next day around 11 o'clock in the morning, I get a call from some number saying, sir, I'm calling from your bank, because he knows which bank I'm withdrawing money from. And then he will say that I'm calling from the bank and last 4 digits of your card is this. Last transaction which you have done is yesterday night, 7:30 p.m. of 10,000 rupees withdrawal, and your balance is, let's say, 2 lakh rupees right now. And now we have found out somebody is trying to hack your account, and your card has been swiped somewhere without your consent. And now to ensure that no transaction happens from your card, we want to block your card, and for this we need OTP from you. Now what has happened is he has used my car to get my phone number. He has used the slips which I have thrown away in ATM to know my pattern and my details. And when I'm busy in a meeting at 11 o'clock next day, when I'm pressed for time, when somebody is calling from me and telling me that what is my bank balance, what is my last transaction, what is my card number, I will feel that somebody from the bank is calling. I will not feel that somebody has snooped on me and got this information. So many times, because you are pressed for time, you are busy in a meeting, and you fear that if you go in a meeting, you will not check your phones. Somebody might be doing transaction on your card. You will probably share your OTP, and that's where the fraud happens. So he is using your trust, which is bringing by gathering information about you because of your carelessness. You have given out information to the person, and that will be misused now to carry out frauds, right? So trust means people will do all sort of things to ensure that you feel that it is coming from a valid source. Greed, you might have received emails claiming that you have won lottery, you have won some free items, you have inherited some property. So all these kind of emails we all receive. Some people who are greedy or who fall for greed, who do not understand what's going on, they may respond to these emails. Once you engage with the criminal, he will then talk to you more, he will get more information from you, and then he will say you have to pay tax to get this gift, you have to pay 10,000 rupees so that you can claim 5 crore rupees, and so on. So he will start exploiting or extorting money from you, and that will be a trap for you. And because of the greed, people fall for these kind of things. Right? Similarly, there is panic, right? Somebody will say your account will be blocked because your KYC is not done. If you do not share all this information, which I'm asking in next 5 minutes, your card and account will be blocked. You can't do transactions. And they will do it typically in first 10 days of the month because your money has come from your salary or from other sources. They know that you have to make payments. If your card is blocked or your account is blocked, you will be in trouble. And that is where they know your psychology and they do carry out these frauds to exploit your emotions, that now you are in panic, right? They will give you offers, fear of missing out, right? It's like I will tell you that if in next 2 minutes, if you click on this link and book this holiday, it is in 90% discount. 5 nights in Goa, I will give you in 500 rupees if you do this transaction in next 5 minutes. So idea is they are forcing you through some kind of a deal which you think is very, very good. Second is they are asking you to do in 5 minutes so that you can't consult somebody. You can't think that this could be wrong. And that is where they're exploiting you. So if somebody is pushing you to do something fast, that should be the red flag that somebody is trying to do a fraud with you, right? Threat we have discussed. Somebody is saying that, okay, your near and dear one is in danger. For example, let me again ask you one more question, and I hope you answer this time. Tell me, let's say if you lose your phone, if you think that your phone has been lost, what is the first step you will do? I'm giving you 4 choices. You will report to police and file an FIR. You will go home and search for it. You will block the SIM, or you will find somebody to make a call to your phone so that you can find out where it is ringing. So these are 4 options. Tell me which one will you choose and which order you will choose. Anyone? Chat box. Aditi can let me know.
Sure, sir. Sir, Akash sir has applied that he will block the SIM and then FIR.
Okay. Anyone else? This is an easy question. You must answer. What will you do in case your phone is lost? So typically when the phone is lost, people are in disbelief. They will not believe that it has been lost. They will try to figure out, near them that, okay, it is in house or in car. People will ask other friends to call so that they can find out where it is, if it is ringing or not ringing. Let's say if a phone is lost, I know what you will be doing. But can you tell me what criminal will do? Let's say if I am the criminal, your phone is lost and I have got it. Can you tell me what will criminal do first? Anyone? What will be the first step of a criminal after getting a phone of somebody? Come on, this is an easy question. No one? Okay, let's assume I am the criminal. Now what I'll do is I will have a handset with me. I will have one more phone. Now what I'll do is I'll take out SIM from your phone. I'll put that SIM into a new phone which I am already having. Now I will switch on this phone and give a call to one of my friend. Why will I do so? I need to know what is the phone number of yours, but I don't want to use your phone because that can be used to track me. Once I have made a call to my friend, whatever number flashes on his screen is your number, which I know. Now what I'll do is on this phone where I have put your SIM, which is a new phone, I will download and install WhatsApp using your number, which I have received from my friend right now. There will be an SMS or a phone call which will come for authentication, using which I will get your WhatsApp installed. Your SIM will have certain numbers. On those numbers, I will send a WhatsApp message saying that the person whose phone number is this has met with an accident. He is in great danger. He is right now hospitalized, unconscious. Immediate surgery needs to be done. Please transfer as much money because doctors are asking for 5 lakh rupees to be deposited. I am right now helping him. This is my Paytm number. You send me as much money as you can so that this person can be saved. The numbers in your phone are of your known people, relatives, friends. Some of them will panic and start transferring money to the Paytm number, which this person has put as a message. Right? So the right choice is, as per the sir, you should block your SIM first. Even though you may get your phone back, you can get a new SIM later on. You should not try to find your phone first or go to police and report it, because all those things can happen later on. First thing is block your SIM so that it cannot be misused. Right? Disruption, this is also important. Whenever there is a change, like when demonetization happened, people started using wallet, so they started doing wallet frauds. Whenever it first became, RFID tags on cars became mandatory, there were a lot of frauds related to counterfeit RFID tags, cheap RFID tags, home delivery of RFID tags. Now when it's pandemic, there are frauds where they're saying, okay, we can get you vaccine on priority. To book a slot, share the OTP which is coming to your phone so that you can be registered from the back end to receive the vaccine. Since people want vaccine badly, at times they tend to say yes or share the OTP, which is then being used to carry out transactions. And these transactions are financial transactions at times, right? So disruption, whenever there is a big change in your life, people are not prepared. These criminals start to, come out with fake websites, fake offers to exploit in guise of helping to the people. They are not helping, but they pretend that they are helping, and which in turn they are doing to, probably, extract more money, to do frauds and so on, right? So emotions are the ones which are being exploited by criminals to do frauds. Can you move on to next slide, please? So they keep on, developing new stories. So initially they used to call, they're calling from the bank. Then they started saying somebody was trying to do fraud on your account, which we have prevented, and you will get a message, spoofed message or fake message, which says somebody was trying to do international transaction on your card, which has been declined by your bank. And then you will get a call from somebody saying that I'm calling from the bank. I want to safeguard you, and now please share your OTP so that we can issue you a new card. Right? So they will keep on changing stories, but fundamentals remains the same. They are pushing you hard. They will exploit your trust. They will exploit your greed, and they will do frauds which are new and you have not heard about. And that is what is something which we have to avoid, right? So I famously say that aankho dekhi and kanu suni may not be true in today's world because technology has changed. We need to see and understand take everything with a pinch of salt, which means you are getting a lot of images, lot of forwards on WhatsApp, right? Videos on WhatsApp, or lots of advisories, documents which are coming, which are counterfeit. So I saw yesterday there was a news saying that central government has stopped DA for the employees. There was a news that curfew has been imposed in certain places, which was not true. So people make counterfeit documents using Photoshop and then circulate on WhatsApp. So what you see on IE today, some images which you are seeing may not be true, right? I will again going forward discuss about how technology or artificial intelligence is being used to make deep fake videos and audios and images, which means again, whatever you see by your eyes may not be true. It might have been doctored, tempered, and counterfeit, right? Move on to next, please. So when we talk about computer frauds and cyber crimes, most of the time we are treating the symptoms rather than the root cause, because crimes happen because of a reason, right? Criminals want money, they want to ruin our reputation. Criminals also want to do they want to take revenge at times, they want to do denial of service and all those things, right? So what we see is the result, but whatever is the result, there is a reason, there is a cause behind it, which means some activities has been done using which criminals are now getting result which they want. To investigate a computer fraud and cybercrime, we need to find the source. And for that, our Locard's principle, the definition of the Locard principle is every contact leaves a trace. This is very important. If anybody wants to do anything related to incident handling, computer forensics or cyber forensics and cybercrime investigation, the person needs to know Locard's principle. I'm repeating, there are two definitions of it. One of them is written on the screen in red color. The first definition says every contact leaves a trace. That means, let's say if I'm doing any activity, I'm leaving some kind of evidences behind. For example, let's say if I would have been there in your college today physically to give this talk. In that case, my car, I might have come from my car. So my car tire print will be there onto the near to your college. When I get down from my car onto your college campus, my shoe print or the footprints will come onto the places. Let's see, if I'm moving towards the auditorium has carpet. The carpet has fibers which might get stuck into my shoe, the small part of the fiber. I will be there, so my hairs will fall somewhere there, so my DNA will be there. If I touch the wall or the table or the mic, there will be my fingerprints all over the place. When I touch a wall, the wall paint will come into my fingernails or fingertips. So I am giving a lot of information to the field, like fingerprints, DNA, and I'm taking a lot of things from me, right? The carpet fiber, the paint of the wall, all the thing has come to me. So I'm giving something to the environment. I'm taking something from the environment, which means there is one more definition of Locard's, which is one cannot come into contact of an environment without changing the environment in some way. So when I came into the contact of your college environment, I changed it by putting my hairs, my DNA, my saliva, and I also got something from there, right, in return. So I'm changing between me and the environment of that particular place. There is exchange of particles and information. So if you can identify footprints of mine and DNA of mine, fingerprints of mine, you can say that I was there. So Locard's principle is very, very useful when we are doing investigation. Now, in case of computer frauds and cybercrime, for example, somebody is making a counterfeit document. I had a license. My friend did not have a license. So he scanned my license. He got an image file. In this image file, he changed his photograph with mine. He changed my name with his name using Photoshop and then got a reprint, color print. Now with a fake license in color output, right? Now, when he was scanning the document, the scanner impact will come into the JPEG image which he has scanned. When he's printing it, there will be impact of printer onto the final printed outcome in terms of some defects. So printers and scanners are not perfect. They will have some minor defects. It may not be seen by eyes, but it is visible if you do some kind of image processing. If you magnify things, you use microscope to magnify it, and then image processing to quantify it. You can always find out that these documents are counterfeit. There will be a lot of noise as compared to the genuine document. Right? Again, this needs to be understood that why I'm giving this example. I'm saying when you are printing a piece of paper by a printer, according to Locard's principle, printer is giving its defect to the printed outcome, which means if you need to find out whether a particular piece of paper has been printed by which one of the printer which is available, let's say in your college has 10 printers, and there is a document which you want to find out from where it has come, you can actually find out. Because this one document will have defects specific to one particular printer, not all of them. Only the printer which has been used in printing this, as per Locard's principle, there is trace of that printer in this particular final printed document in terms of defects. You can identify those defects and quantify those defects, and that is your evidence, right? And this applies in all kind of cases. Let's say if I'm sending an email to you, my computer signature will be there in email. When I'm typing an email, the spelling mistake which I do will be there in the text. Choice of word which I have is different than choice of word of most of you, and so on. So if I use all this information as per Locard, I can find out who has sent this email, right? So any activity happening in physical world or virtual world can be attributed to somebody using Locard's principle. Locard's principle is your starting point for understanding investigation, for doing any kind of forensic investigation, for developing any kind of solution which can be useful in case of cybercrime incident investigation. Next slide, please. So this I tell people, right? Criminals are most creative but extremely lazy. Reason is, they develop a technique and they use it multiple times for a very long period until it becomes very common and known to everyone. Once it becomes common, they move on to new technique. So we must learn from their creativity, and we must target their laziness, because as long as they're using the old technique, and if you figure out what is the technique, then you can probably try to capture these criminals by investigating the known technique, right? Can you please move on to the next slide? Right. So there are hundreds of examples which I can give, right? So creativity examples, I will give about how social media is being used or rather misused. I will also give examples of internet and gaming addiction, how free things are being misused, and so on. Let's take one by one, right? Let's take example of social media. What do you think? Using social media is good and fun? What is your answer? My question is social media fun and good to use? Anyone? Please type in chat box. Is there any answer? Aditi?
No, sir, no response.
Okay. I think I'm expecting a little more interaction.
Students,
what do you think?
please.
Using? Yeah.
Sir, Akash sir has replied that it is an addiction.
It is an addiction. Okay.
Yes,
What
true.
else? So, social media for most of us is fun. It is fun. So my answer is it is fun as long as you know what you are doing. Otherwise, it could be really, really problematic. I will give you some examples. For example, let's say if you post 2 photographs on your social media saying celebrating at home some festival, or let's say celebrating New Year at home or celebrating Diwali at home, and you're posting a photograph. And then you're also posting a photograph saying that you're going to Goa for 10 days after 1 week, right? Now, these 2 photographs, if I get access to, what all can I get? I can get a lot of information. That lot of information means when you're posting that you're celebrating a festival at home, that photograph will also contain the GPS location of your house. It will contain which camera have you used to take this photograph. It will tell me whether it's an iPhone which have you used, or it is a Micromax phone which you have used, or it's a Samsung phone which you have used. All these details will also be there embedded in that photograph which you are posting, which means now I will know that what is your house, what kind of phone are you using, which means if you're using an iPhone and you are staying in a posh colony, that means you are rich, you have more money. And if you're using a Micromax phone and you are staying in a slum area, that means you are probably not my target. I will target the other person, right? Second is when you are saying that you're going to Goa for 10 days, it will also tell me that your home, which is whose GPS location I have extracted by when you were celebrating at home, will be empty and nobody will be there, and I can go there and do a robbery. I've seen cases where robbery has taken place when the person has posted photograph that he's traveling by air to somewhere, because then now people know that your house is empty. Nobody has to tell the criminal that this house is empty. You yourself, using the photograph, has told criminal that you are not at home, right? So social media is being mined. If you go to your social media profile and if you see all your friend list, there will be few friends who has a photograph of a celebrity and you have never met. So what is the new trend is, if I want to do criminal activity, I will download a photograph from internet. I will then use some famous photograph, give some famous name, and then send out friend request to n number of people, assuming some will accept, and people accept. So my suggestion to you is, do not weed out all the friends. Go to your friend list today. Anybody who you are not sure who this person is and you have not met them in person at least once in your lifetime, remove them as your friend, because they are only getting your details. They are only mining your private and personal data, which they want to misuse, right? So social media can actually be misused heavily, and we must be very sure of what we are doing. For example, if you post a photograph of saying that, okay, some family member, or let's say kid, has won first prize, and you are posting that photograph that my son or my daughter or my niece is receiving first prize in his school. Now what will happen is, that photograph will not only tell the name of the school, will also tell the photograph of the person, and again, through which kind of phone this photograph has been taken. If it has been taken by iPhone, that kid becomes the prime target for kidnappers. The kidnappers know a parent who is using an iPhone. If you kidnap their kid, their ward, chances are you will get ransom. So we should never post photographs without knowing what we are posting, and how it can be misused on social media. I will suggest post photographs with a post-dated timeline. If I go to Goa, I will post those photographs 4 months later saying I went to Goa 4 months back. That is rather better than instead of posting that I'm going to Goa today. Because if you post it going to Goa today, chances are robbers will come to your house tonight, right? Let's see, internet and gaming addiction. As sir was also saying, these companies who are making games or who are making apps and social media apps, they want you to be engaged to the phone. If you are not engaged to the phone, they are not making money. For them, money means your impression that you are doing an activity, you are liking something, browsing something, playing something. As long as you are doing something, they are making money from the advertisers. But if you're not doing this, they are not making money. So what they do is, they want to keep you hooked. They will send out you notifications. They will design the game in such a way that you cannot leave the game. TikTok and Instagram and these kind of apps, promote more likes to the people who make their videos and photographs, which are dangerous at times and dangerous locations. So what is happening is, young generation today is becoming addicted to these apps. They are not caring whether they are risking their lives by taking selfies and videos at a dangerous location, which can lead to a lot of issues. And apart from this, since you are hooked to these devices, you are hooked and addicted to technology, you're not going outdoors, you're not meeting real people, it is really bad for your mental and physical health and well-being. So we are seeing a very disturbing trend that, gaming addiction and internet addiction is becoming real. There are de-addiction centers which are being opened in the country. So idea is, as a user, we must do digital detox. We should be sure that, we just can't be dependent on technology so much that, without technology, we feel that there is some part of us has gone out, right? So we should not reach to a point where we have to need de-addiction centers, help to become de-addict of technology. Rather, we should exercise control on ourselves so that we only use these things as a tool and for a particular purpose, rather than become their, we should not let technology become our master. We should not become their servant. So that is something which is very important, right? Next is luring by providing free. So free is something which, excites us today, right? So let's say if you're going somewhere out and your phone is about to die in terms of battery, there will be a mad rush to find charging point. So if you go to big places, big malls and airports, they don't give you a charging slot. They will give you a charging kiosk where at times you can't put your charger in. Rather, there are charging cables which are there of all make and models which you can use to charge your phone. And we innocently go and plug our phone there and start our charging of our phone. You know what can go wrong? All these cables are hidden behind kiosk. You only have one end exposed to you, which you use to connect your phone. You don't know what is there on the other side. They can use malicious devices to transfer viruses, trojans, and malicious programs, ransomwares on your phone. They can steal your data. So you should not use kiosks to charge your phones, right? But then what would you do? You are traveling, your phone is having low battery or no battery, and you need to charge your phone. So idea is either use power bank to first charge your power bank from that kiosk to power bank, and then use power bank to charge your phone. Let's say if you don't have a power bank, instead of connecting your phone in a switch on mode to the cable, first switch off your phone and then connect it to the cable, so that now your phone is dumb. It is not having operating system working. Chances are virus, trojans, and malicious programs and apps cannot be installed on your computer or your phone, right? So this is something important which we all should do. So there are very simple lifestyle changes which are required so that we can safeguard against a lot of computer frauds and cyber crimes. So one more thing is, like, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning are being used to make deep fakes. What is a deep fake? Deep fake is a audio, video, or fake is audio or a program, where artificial intelligence and machine learning has been used to generate counterfeit, realistic fake videos, doctor and more photographs and video, or regenerate audio where somebody is forced to say something which he has not said. Right, if you go to this website, which is listed on the PowerPoint presentation, which says thispersondoesnotexist.com. So this is a website on which there is a program, deep learning program, artificial intelligence program is running. What it does, it has seen 1 million faces. Now it is generating new faces on its own of the people who do not exist. The photograph shown on this page will not be of a real person, and you will keep on refreshing this page. It will keep on showing you a new face. But these faces are not of real people. Those people do not exist in this world. They have been imagined by the program itself by learning from other faces which has been given as input. Right? Can you move on to next slide, Aditi, please? Next slide. Yeah. So if you see, social media has brought distant people closer, but it has created, or rather creating, distance between people who are close to each other. If you and me stay together, we are friends. This social media is bringing distance between us because we are busy in the online world doing activity on social media rather than going out with your actual friends, real friends in the physical world. And that is what is causing trouble. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, what can you see on the board? No, please go back. Just the first tab. Yeah. What can you see on the screen? Can you type onto the chat box? Anyone? Is there anybody who is typing anything? Is this modern art, blocks? It's basically, some words which are written. If you see something which is written in white, is lift, L-I-F-T. Can you please press a button, Aditi? Yeah. Now, if you see, this is L-I-F-T. So even if I remove these lines now, you can still figure out that the written word is left, which you were not able to figure out earlier. So the idea is, if you know about computer frauds and cyber crimes, if I tell you about how computer frauds and cyber crime happen, you will probably safeguard yourself against computer frauds and cyber crimes. But if you don't know that they exist, if you don't know how crimes are happening, chances are some of the crimes will be done against you, because criminals will not spare anybody. They will try to do fraud against each one of us. Right? Next, please. Okay. So, for this purpose, I have written a book, because, I cannot tell all the things which I know today in a talk. There are around 62 myths and realities which we have. And through small relatable stories and normal incidents, we have compiled a book titled Cyber Unsafe. It is available on Amazon. It's 5-star rated, bestseller in the internet and social media category. So this book is unique, that you don't have to read it completely. You can read it from any point, because every 4 or 5 pages are independent to each other. Every it contains a small article, let's say, about how ransomware is being done. What can you do to make sure that you are safe against ransomwares? It will also talk about what precautions to take, let's say, if you are using an ATM machine. It will also have tips about, like I discussed, that anything free could be taking away data from your mobile phone when you are putting it to a charge in public, and so on. So I've written it with my younger sister Garima Gupta, and this is available on Amazon. Next slide, please. Aditi, can you read it for me fast? As fast as you can.
Yes, I couldn't believe that I could actually understand what I was reading using the incredible power of human mind. According to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the not able to pronounce this word in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last be
Letter.
in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Amazing. Oh, yeah, and always thought spelling was important.
See, you could read everything, right? So if you give this paragraph to a 5-year-old, he will not be able to read. So the
Yes.
difference is, as the research says, human mind is very intelligent. It doesn't read everything in all. So if you recall the first slide where I had OGNC, most people will read in a normal course of time ONGC. Because our mind applies intelligence, it thinks errors needs to be corrected automatically. And that is what is being exploited by criminals. Criminals are very smart. They know humans will not go in details. Let make a phishing link with one letter here and there, and people will read it correctly, whereas it will take you to a completely different place, even if I change one bit into the text, right? So what I'm saying is, criminals are creative and using this creativity against us. And we are intelligent, and our intelligence is going also against us. We need to be more than intelligent, careful. We need to be observant. We need to make sure that we do everything with where we keep eye on detail. We should not miss out on any detail. If we are missing out on detail, then fraud will happen against us. Next slide, please. This you can skip. Please go to next. Yeah, this we have discussed. Social media is fun. And it depends. Yeah, please next. Social media is fun. We have discussed. And it depends on various factors, right? Just think how much Google knows about you. Google knows so much about you that if I ask you where were you exactly 1 year earlier at this point of time, 4 o'clock, can you tell me? Chances are nobody will be able to tell exactly where they were at 4 o'clock 1 year back into 2021. If I ask you 2 years back, I can bet nobody can tell. Whereas if you go to Google timeline, just press next. If you go to the Google timeline, and it is available on takeout.google.com. For each one of us in our account, 5 to 10 GB data is there, which tells where were we, what were we doing, what we ate, what did we search, what all devices we have. So if I ask you which phones have you bought 5 years back, let's say if somebody has changed 5 phones in 5 years, he will not remember which phone was there with him from what time to what time, but Google knows that. Google will keep track of everything. So according to me, a small piece of advice is go to takeout.google.com, download your data, and then delete this data from Google. Reason is, if somebody gets access to your Gmail account, he can download this data about you and he will know now all the history about you. So you should not let this be misused. So these kind of tips I have also given in my book. Please go on to next slide. So when we are discussing about cyber incidents, the obvious question which comes is, can we be trained? Can we become cybercrime investigators? Answer is yes. Next slide, please. Answer is yes, but you require training. Bootstrapping is required. Bootstrapping means some kind of initial thrust, which means you need to have a core degree of computer science or electronics or related area, a bachelor's degree or a master degree. And then you need specific training of cybercrime investigation, which is 3 months to 6 months specialized courses. And if you do these kind of courses, in India, we have a demand supply gap in terms of cybercrime investigators, forensic investigators, cyber lawyers. There are none. So if you work in this area, you spend 6 months getting your skills and certifications, I can give you a guarantee that you will be very, very employable. You will get actually the highest salary which a person of your age and experience can get, which otherwise is not available to all people. Because this area, we have a big demand supply gap. We need 5 to 10 lakh people every year, and there are only hundreds and thousands of people which are available. Next, please. Skip this. Next. Yeah. So go to the last slide where we're saying press delete and data is gone. No, you're going forward. Go back. One more. Yeah. Here. Nothing is visible. Can you go back? Yes. So I'm saying press delete and data is gone. Or press shift delete format. Or you break the hard disk, break the CD drives, and data is gone. Do you think this is true? I don't think so. Next, please. According to me, data once created is never gone. It will remain. If you delete data, I can recover it in seconds. If you do shift delete or format, I can get it in minutes. If you do repartitioning, overwriting, I can get this data in months. But I can always get this data back. The last line is important here. Recovery depends on capability, knowledge, skill, resources, and motivation of the person who wants this data back. If you really want it back, if it is a national security thing and you don't care about money and time, you can always get it back. Next, please. So piece of advice to you, never create a piece of electronic data, video, audio, or text, which you do not want to retain forever, because it will come back and haunt you. So there are cases, where somebody has shared the intimate video to a friend, or some kind of, let's say password has been shared, or credit card detail has been captured by a photograph and shared among friends. All this once created will, come back and haunt you. It will always be there. So there is a trend that, people buy a new phone and they give you the old phone as a second-hand phone in exchange by do a factory reset. If you do a factory reset of the phone, I can get all data back in 5 minutes using specialized softwares. So whenever we give our phone to somebody, when we are giving it in exchange, our phones are taken for data recovery, all the data is recovered, and then the data is actually examined. If there are photographs and videos, they are used for blackmailing, or they are posted on various websites. If there is a photograph of a credit card or a passport that is being misused to carry out transactions, and so on. So what should you do with the phone? Can somebody tell me that while buying a new phone, what should you do with the old phone? Anybody type in chat? This is an easy question. Any answer? Aditi?
No, sir.
Okay, so let me help you. Whenever you have to buy a new phone, do not give your phone outside, because then data recovery will definitely happen. So you should, there are free software which you can download. You change your phone because either it is not retaining battery, or else it is slow, or you want a better phone. So now what happens is you can install a free software which can convert your phone to a CCTV camera. You can connect it to home Wi-Fi. You can put it into permanent power plug. You connect a power cable and put it into power socket. And now this will work as CCTV camera independently at your home. Using Wi-Fi, it can transmit data wherever you wish. Software is free, power is there. So your phone has not gone out where somebody can exploit and extract data. This is the best use you can do of your phone. And that is what I have also mentioned in the book when I've discussed about how phones are being used to do frauds through stories. Next, please.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but can we come to the conclusion as we have another meeting
Yes,
scheduled
please.
with?
Sure. Please move on. I think you can skip this. This also you can skip. There's only one slide which I want to talk just in the end. Please keep moving. You skip this. These are some of the examples of how frauds are happening on Gmail. Right, and there are skimmers. People are making skimmers to actually extract data. Internet and gaming addiction I have discussed. This is something should be avoided. So yeah, wait. So in today's world, survival of most aware is the mantra, which means if you are aware about how crimes are happening, how criminals are doing frauds, then you can survive. Then you can avoid those crimes, right? So I would encourage you to read a lot about how crimes are happening, because more you read about crimes, more stories you read about crimes, anywhere you can get it on various newspapers, various websites. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm available on LinkedIn. I keep posting there on LinkedIn. I will post probably the link of my profile into the chat box post my talk. Or you can also read the book. Please move on to next. You can get the book from Amazon. Please keep moving next. And that book also contains a lot of stuff and a lot of stories about, so this is important, that prevention is better than the cure in digital world also. And the prevention can only happen if you read about what to prevent, how to prevent, and what is going wrong in technology. So I will conclude by saying, please move on to next slide. I will conclude saying that if you become little difficult not to crack, if you make it difficult for criminals to do crime against you, they will not do crime against you, right? Next, please. Yeah, this is done. If you want, you can get book. This is my email ID. If you want, you can reach to me, write to me through college or directly also. I would be happy to help. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer, and I'm pasting link of my profile as well as of book into the chat box.
Thank you so much, Gaurav sir. If anyone have any question in mind, then he or she can raise his or her hand and then put up your question in the chat box, or I'll unmute. Okay, nobody is there. Thank you
No
so much.
question? Okay.
Thank you so much, Gaurav sir, for enlightening us with valuable information that how nowadays criminals are so creative and they play with our emotions, sentiments, trust, and we get trapped into big problems, and how we can safely use the social media platforms to avoid any sort of misuse, and how we can safely handle our mobile phones, all the valuable information, pictures, and rest all. Thank you so much once again, sir. And
Thank
I
you,
would,
and I hope you have safe digital technology usage. You don't fall for the frauds. Read about them, and spread the word about book as well as about how criminals are doing crime to your family and friends, because they are also vulnerable. Right, everybody is using mobile phone, anybody, so kids and senior citizens are also being exploited because they don't know about how criminals are doing fraud. So you as a youngster has a more responsibility on you to first read and then spread the word around. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thanks to all the dear audiences for patient listening, and surely all of us have collected useful information through this talk. The webinar has been recorded and a detailed report and video link will be shared soon with all of you. On behalf of organizing committee, I would like to thank to the esteemed management, director, HOD CSC, and my colleagues and participating students. And once again, I would like to thank Gaurav sir. We are thankful by the core of our hearts to Honorable Speaker Gaurav sir for guiding us that how we can use social media safely, and many more useful points shared by him. We are sure that whenever we shall cordially request and invite you, you shall accept our humble invitation and will grace us by your presence and sessions.
Sure, thank you.
I would like to thank Rohit sir and Mala ma'am for the background coordination and support. Once again, thanks a lot everyone. So we can close this session now.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All of you can leave.